friends, welcome back to my channel. My name is Crissy and this is my cozy corner. So today we're actually going to be in my bedroom right next to my boho chair that my cat loves to sleep on. So in today's video, we're going to be doing my August reading wrap up. So I read 6 physical books and then I listened to 2 on audio. So those are going to be the ones that we're going to be talking about today. I'm going to start with the ones that I rated maybe the worst. And I had a pretty decent month, so there's not like too many books that I felt that way about, but I'm gonna start from the worst and go all the way to the best. So the first book that I'm gonna be talking about today is going to be Twisted Love by Anna Huang. So in Twisted Love, we start off with Ava and then her brother who's leaving town, but he really wants somebody to be looking out for Ava while he's gone. So he asks his best friend Alex to watch over her. So of course, our main character, Alex, is super broody and his dark past go hand in hand with his personality. Alex does have his own motives in the book, which of course, if you want to read this book, I don't want to share too much about that, but you'll read to find out what is kind of going on there. This book really wasn't for me. I did give it 2 stars. I know a lot of people would like this book. If you like the Never After series by Emily McIntyre, I think that this would be perfect for you. I do think part of the reason I didn't love this book was because the main character has this whole "you're mine, you belong to me" towards the female main character, and that's not really my cup of tea. And then on top of that, the plot seemed a little outlandish to me, which is something that I'm not really into. So yeah, 2 stars, but I know there's a lot of fans out there who do love this series and this specific author, but this was my first time reading her, so I won't say I won't give her a second chance and maybe try the second book in the series, but just overall, this just wasn't my type of book. All right, so the next book that I read in the month of August is gonna be The Naturals by Jennifer Lynn Barnes. I have read the Inheritance Games by her and I did enjoy that series overall. So this one is about 17-year-old Cassie who is good at reading people or profiling people. The FBI create this classified program called The Naturals where they enlist different teenagers who have special abilities like profiling people or reading emotions, or another one was data and statistics analysis. And they use these teenagers to solve cold cases. So then ultimately Cassie is sent to live with this group of teenagers with these special abilities, and then they end up working on these cases. Along with a serial killer coming into the mix, and then Cassie not really knowing what happened with her mom's disappearance, I feel like this book had enough plot and story to go around and be entertained throughout the whole time. Watching the teens use their different abilities, but overall I was not shocked or attached to any of the characters, so this is why I ended up giving this one a 3 star. I did enjoy it. It was very entertaining, but I think ultimately a year from now this one's gonna end up being forgettable for me. But if I continue with the series, maybe that will change. So the next book I ended up reading on my Kindle, so that's gonna be Reckless Girls by Rachel Hawkins. This book starts off with a couple named Alex and Nico who live in Hawaii, and they had always planned to travel by boat. But because Nico's boat ends up needing expensive repairs, they kind of settle into life in Hawaii. But Lux ends up being kind of demotivated because she's stuck at a dead-end job and she still kind of craves that traveling wanderlusting experience. Nico ends up meeting 2 women who want to pay him to sail them to this remote island, and then Lux ends up coming along with them on this voyage. And then they are hiding some secrets, which you do learn along the way because there is past chapters that delve into the lives of each of these characters, which I thought was really interesting. Is one of my favorite parts of this book. Then when they get to the island, they think it's going to be completely deserted. There is a rich couple with a nice boat and food and all these good things, so they end up kind of making friends with them and hanging out with them, and you also learn more about their past as the book goes. So I did end up giving this book a 3 star because it was another thriller for me that had all the promise and such a great storyline, but just ended up being predictable in the end. While I thought this book was so much fun and I thought I was gonna rate it higher, I just really wanted to be shocked. But I will say it is a really good time and it is perfect for summer. Next book I ended up reading on audio, but I do own the physical copy, and that's gonna be The Woman in Me by Britney Spears. So this starts off by taking you through her early life, and eventually you get to the present time while she was writing this book when she's getting out of the conservatorship. I really love how Britney Spears shared her hard home life in this story and the therapeutic yet hard and ugly truths about the music industry, as well as how difficult it is being in the spotlight at such a young age. Overall, I really like this because I do love Britney Spears and I loved learning about her life, but I felt like I wanted it to be longer. There were parts that she was describing that I wanted even more information on, and I know it is up to her to share with us what she wants us to know, but I just kind of felt myself wanting more, but I did give it 4 stars. So you do learn some things about her family that you obviously didn't know, some things about Justin, some things specifically about Jamie Lynn Spears that made me look at all of them differently. But overall, I like this. I gave it a 4 star, but still I was itching for even more detail about Britney's life because she's a queen and I love her so much. So I just want to know everything about her. The next book I listened to on audio, and that is The Wedding People by Allison S. Patch. So this one, a woman named Phoebe ends up arriving in Newport, Rhode Island to stay at a hotel. But the bride who's having her wedding there thought that she booked out all the rooms, so there was no other guests there except for her family and her own guests. Then the bride and Phoebe end up having a weird encounter, and after that they just can't stop confiding in each other. And one of my favorite things about it was the two of them were just so brutally honest with each other. It had me like laughing and like kind of going at some moments, but I like loved every minute of it. The book was like one of the most unexpected surprises for me. I just remember I was reading a hardcover of a different book and I kept wanting to find chores around the house to do because I couldn't stop listening to it. I would say that this book is probably best categorized as a dark and dry humor, and definitely a solid 4 star for me. All right, so the next book that I read was Bunny by Mona Awad. So this book was so weird, but so good to me. Like, I had some weird feelings while I was reading this book. Samantha is a scholar student at a university writing program, and she doesn't really fit in. She kind of stays to herself aside from her one friend, Ava. There's this group of girls in Samantha's writing cohort that call each other Bunny. And Samantha and Ava talk about just how weird they are and how they just would never want to like interact with them. Until one day, Samantha receives an invitation to their smut salon. And when she gets there, she ends up surprisingly feeling very drawn to everything that's going on. In the beginning of this story, the bunnies felt kind of like Mean Girls the movie. Like, I could kind of pair a character from the movie with a character in the book. And even Samantha, she would be Katie from Mean Girls, who was Lindsay Lohan. I thought that the author takes us on like one heck of a trip. You will be reading the book and saying like WTF every other page, I swear. I genuinely enjoyed this book. I thought it did a really great job with symbolism and theme. I really loved like all of its weirdness, and I also like the fact that I had no idea what was gonna happen next because I really didn't know what was going on half the time. I would say if you like the dark humor or like culty type of dark academia books, definitely give this one a try. Next book that I read was Heartless Hunter by Kristen Cicarelli. It's also called The Crimson Moth. So this one we have Gideon, our handsome witch hunter, and Rune, our beautiful undercover witch, as our main characters. I ended up giving this one a 4 star. I thought the premise was super unique because you have witches who are outlawed, so hunters are trying to them with the unique premise of how witches use their magic and then the markings that end up coming on their skin, which if they're found out, that's how they are identified. I thought it was a solid first book in a series. I do have a couple qualms with it though. First one being that I definitely understood why our main characters were attracted to each other, Rune and Gideon, but I didn't feel enough buildup from their relationship to have seen how Rune felt as strongly as she did about Gideon. And then the second thing is the plot twist is very predictable. I feel like it's revealed early on if you're really paying attention. But I will say there is something else that happens that I was like, oh no, about. So there is that, and it did make me feel kind of a little emotional about it. But like I said, this is a very solid first book in a series, so I am very excited for the second book. So I guess this would kind of start my top 3 of the month that I love the most. I have 2 more to talk about. So the next one I rated a 4.5 stars, and that is the Ex Vows by Jessica Joyce. Oh man, my cheeks were hurting so much from how much I was just smiling about this. So this one is about Georgia and Eli and their estranged exes, but they have a mutual best friend named Adam. So Adam's wedding venue ends up being burned down, and he's trying to scramble to figure out things that are just not ready for his wedding because it's coming right around the corner. So his two best friends here, Eli and Georgia, are tasked with helping him with different jobs, and they end up working together. I thought the setting was beautiful. It's in Napa Valley. I mean, you could see the vineyards in the background there. And then also the second chance was done so well. So the problem with them working together is the two of them ended up breaking up when they were 23, and this is 5 years later, and they have lied to Adam because they all used to be really good friends and have said that they are still friends, so they can still be in the same room. There's no hard feelings there, but they obviously feel a little kind of like uncomfortable around each other. It was really fun seeing them rekindle their romance because obviously there was leftover feelings, and how they communicated about what happened between them I thought was done really well. Like I said, I gave this one a 4.5. I loved the main characters, both of them. I love the friend group. I love the setting. I loved how they communicated and got past their problems from 5 years ago. So yeah, this one was great, but I loved Jessica Joyce's other book, You With A View, so I was kind of expecting it to be good because I love that one so much. I'm just gonna go ahead and say it. It was 5 stars, better than the movies, by Lynn Painter. I've never read a Lynn Painter book, and I am excited to pick up the rest of her books because I loved this one. Like, it was so shocking how much I loved this one. I did not expect that. I expected it just to be an easy, fluffy read, but what I ended up getting from it was like so much more. When I put it down, I didn't really want to even pick up another book. I just went back and like was rereading parts of this, and the reason I was so shocked is because it is, I would say, targeted more to a younger audience. It's a young adult romance. They're in high school, but I don't want to say it didn't feel like it because it did. It's just, they were such great characters, and then the way they talked and bantered was just so much fun. Sometimes I kind of actually forgot that they were in high school, as a matter of fact. Okay, so this is about Liz and Wes. So Liz lives next door to Wes, who has been terrorizing her since they were kids, like any way he can. When I say terrorizing, I mean it's his way of flirting, you know, like pulling the pigtails is basically what it is. But then when Liz's longtime childhood crush moves back to town, Liz asks Wes, hey, can you kind of help me land this guy so that he can take me to prom? So that's how the story begins. So Wes agrees, and they start spending a lot of time together, and then Liz quickly realizes she might have misjudged Wes all these years. When I say that I was laughing out loud so much, I was sitting next to my husband in bed with my like book light on. I was afraid I was gonna wake him up. I was laughing out loud. There's this like part with a penny, and like the whole scene, I could not stop laughing. Like, it's very rare that I laugh out loud when I'm reading a book. It's sometimes in my head, I'm like, that was funny, or that was cheeky, haha. But I was like, actually, like my face was turning red. I was really laughing. It's another book that made my cheeks hurt really bad because of how much I was smiling throughout it. I mean, like, this book just made me feel so good and so happy. Another thing I liked about this book was the added layer of Liz having lost her mom when she was younger, and now she's going through some of these firsts in her senior year, going to prom, her last this, her last that, and then her mom not being there for it. So she's really emotional about that. So I really love that. I thought that was very touching. I'm so excited for the sequel coming out. It's called Nothing Like the Movies. I think it's coming out in September. There's also a bonus chapter book coming out that's in between the two books, and it's called Better Than the Prom, and I believe it's like that night at prom and everything that happened like in this book, which I won't say too much about. But when I say I'm gonna have to put aside my fall TBR to read those books when they come out on the release day, like I'm going to. And I have a video on my channel called Top 10 Favorite Romance Books of All Time. I feel like I can knock some off and add this one to it, and maybe even this one, because I love both of these so much. Definitely this is gonna be up pretty high. So I'm gonna have to reorder all of those. I just wanna hold on to it. So since this is my August reading wrap up and we're going into September now, I did a TBR jar prompt game on my channel. I posted it last week, so if you want to take a look at that and see what books I will be reading in September and be talking about at the end of September, you can check that one out. I will link it in the description. And another one that I'll link in the description is my Cozy Fall TBR. So that shows all the books I want to read this fall in September, October, and November. So thank you so much for joining me on my August reading wrap up. I thought it was a pretty decent month, especially because I found a new favorite. I actually expected it to be a Heartless Hunter because I'm such a fantasy girl, but Better Than the Movies takes the cake. So I will see you next time, and thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video. Bye guys.